Glen Barrows International Pest Control provides a comprehensive approach for a pest-free environment for both residential and commercial clients. Our services include lawn spraying and fungus control services to ensure the safety of your family and pets, commercial pest and rodent control, pre-construction soil treatment, subterranean termite control, and tent fumigation. Call Glen Barrows International Pest Control at 465-2935 or 469-5294. Glen Barrows International Pest Control, setting new standards in pest control.
With news from across the Federation, spanning the region and covering the globe, this is the KyssFM SKN News Now Morning Edition, your one true source for news. And now your presenter.
Today is Tuesday, 14th February 2017. I'm Leslie Joseph. This is the SKN News Now Morning Edition, brought to you with the kind compliments of Glen Barrows Pest Control and Guest House. These are the top stories this hour. St. Vincent and the Grenadines government invites former Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Denzel Douglas to the opening of the Argyle International Airport. And Cabinet meets at the luxury Four Seasons Hotel on Nevis to show its connection with the islanders. But one division is very wary of the gesture. Regionally, details of a short-lived riot at the British Virgin Islands prison are coming to light. Internationally, Donald Trump's security advisor Michael Flynn has resigned after a mere 3 weeks in the post. And in sport, former New England Patriots wide receiver Alex Hernandez is back on trial for murder. Now for a look at the stories in detail. Former St. Kitts and Nevis' Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel L. Douglas, was among scores of dignitaries invited to attend today's official opening of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines' new Argyle International Airport. Dr. Douglas, the Federation's leader of the opposition, is guest of St. Vincent and the Grenadines' Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves. Argyle will receive its first ever flights on Tuesday as the largest project in the history of the country. The first flights to St. Vincent and the Grenadines' new airport, charter service operated by Caribbean Airlines from New York, represent the end of a journey that first began in 2008. The next flight will be a Dynamic Airways charter flight also departing John F. Kennedy Airport on Tuesday. While no major carriers have yet been announced scheduled service to the airport, the debut of Argyle means the country can now for the first time receive large international aircraft thanks to a 9,000-foot runway. That was a major engineering challenge which called for the removal of 3 mountains before construction. The debut marks the close of operations at St. Vincent's E.T. Joshua Airport, which had served the island for decades but had only been able to receive regional flights from neighboring islands in the Caribbean. The Team Unity Cabinet held a retreat on Nevis yesterday at the luxury Four Seasons Resort. The government has indicated that Monday's retreat is the first of many meetings of the federal cabinet on the sister island. Premier of Nevis and Minister of Nevis Affairs, Social Security, Labour and Ecclesiastical Affairs, Honourable Vance Amory, expressed pleasure at Nevis being given the opportunity to host the usual cabinet meeting.
I want to really say how very pleased I am, and on behalf of my colleague Mark Brantley and the people of Nevis, to welcome the meeting and the hosting of this cabinet meeting here in Nevis. And as you have said, the second anniversary of the inauguration of the Team Unity government. And those of us who have been involved in this whole, the history of Team Unity and of the strengthening of the bonds between St. Kitts and Nevis in a genuine way, I think we are happy to have this meeting, and I believe that we shall have a very productive meeting. And when we meet this evening, we shall also get a report on what we've been able to accomplish as a result of this unity government for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Prime Minister Harris stated that it was necessary for the presence of the federal government to be felt on Nevis. He added that the physical presence of cabinet members in Nevis is important to strengthening the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis.
In the spirit of building the best possible relations between the federal entity and the NIA, that it is important that the federal government's presence be felt in Nevis, and that Nevisians can feel a sense of proximity to the decisions that are being made federally, which will impact upon their lives and livelihoods. We will try from time to time to rotate the holding of our cabinet meetings in Basti and Charlestown, so that we are closer home to all the people who we serve.
Meanwhile, Nevis Reformation Party Senator Honourable Carlisle Powell is not in the least impressed by the federal government's decision to host a cabinet retreat on the sister island. On Monday, as part of the 2-year anniversary celebrations of the Tripartite Coalition's election to public office, the Team Unity administration held a meeting of the federal cabinet at the Four Seasons Hotel and Resort. Senator Powell has since stated that this, in the grand scheme of economic and infrastructural development on Nevis, is neither here nor there.
It must be something of a joke for the Prime Minister to say that he brought a cabinet retreat to Nevis so that the people of Nevis could feel close to the cabinet and the decision-making body. And then they barricaded themselves down at Four Seasons, away from the people of Nevis. The people of Nevis, for the most part, who don't listen to the news, did not even know that they were in Nevis. And basically, the people of Nevis would not care one hoot that they are meeting in Nevis. For the first time in 2 years, they have decided to come to Nevis to have a cabinet meeting and make a song and dance. Well, what are the important results from the cabinet meeting that will affect Nevis? Will we get new generators for the power plant so that our power does not continue to go up on a daily basis? Will we get some meaningful help with the water project so that the people of Nevis stop having to carry water in buckets to look after themselves? What are they going to tell us about the way that the federal government is functioning, with 2 ministers from Nevis in St. Kitts getting double salaries when people in Nevis don't have jobs? When 200 school children will be leaving school this summer and will have no jobs and no opportunities for continued education. Don't make any sense to me. It's neither here nor there to the people of Nevis.
Regionally, details of a short-lived prison riot in Tortola are coming to light. We hear more in this report from Road Town.
What was reported as a major disturbance in sections of the media on Friday, February 10, 2017, at Her Majesty's Prison in Balsam Gut, Tortola, is being described by Superintendent of Prison David Foote as prisoners misbehaving. When JTV News sought an update on the situation from Mr. Foote on Monday, he explained what transpired and said the situation was quickly resolved.
Prisons are prisons. When you take people off the street who have been violent, have been aggressive, potentially killed people, and you put them all in one place, you are always going to have a volatile situation, and it's a skill to manage in prisons and to make sure that those tensions sometimes don't spill over, and sometimes young men don't want to behave. It's that simple. Through the end of last week, we had 1 or 2 prisoners who didn't want to behave. We took action, and they continued to try and employ violence towards staff and cause some other problems. The task force never entered the prison. The task force were called as a contingency, as you should in some of these circumstances. The aim is always to resolve these things peacefully and for nobody to get injured, and that was the case. The situation resolved itself, and the prison returned to normal quite quickly.
The Donald Trump administration has imposed sanctions against Venezuelan Vice President Tarek El Aissami, accusing him of playing a major role in international drug trafficking. Juan Carlos Lamas has more.
The U.S. has imposed sanctions on Venezuelan Vice President Tarek El Aissami. He's been accused of playing a major role in international drug trafficking. El Aissami is the most senior Venezuelan official ever to be targeted by the United States. He's also accused of having ties to Hezbollah, the Lebanese terrorist organization, while El Aissami denies any involvement in criminal activity.
The Venezuelan government hasn't delivered any comment on the U.S. Treasury Department announcement alleging that the Venezuelan vice president was involved in transporting narcotics by planes and ships from Venezuela. Tarek El Aissami was recently appointed Vice President of Venezuela. He has been Minister of Justice, State Governor, and Deputy. The U.S. sanctions include freezing El Aissami's assets, forbidding him from entering the U.S., the confiscation of his properties in the United States, and the prohibition of carrying out financial or commercial transactions with U.S. institutions. In the document, the Treasury Department makes clear that the sanctions are not against Venezuela, but against individuals who are a threat to the security of the United States. For experts here, the decision is likely to lead to a deterioration of U.S. relations with the Venezuelan government.
On the international scene, Michael Flynn has resigned as U.S. President Donald Trump's national security advisor over his contacts with Russia. Alan Fisher has the latest on this development.
As a direct presidential appointment, General Mike Flynn didn't need Senate confirmation to be the national security advisor. His spell in the White House was short and troubled.
It reflects very poorly on Trump's ability to pick advisors the right way.
An early supporter of the new president, he delighted campaign crowds with his attacks on rival Hillary Clinton. But it was his post-election connections with Russia that put him in the spotlight. In his last few days in office, President Obama imposed new sanctions on the Russians for their interference in the U.S. presidential election. He also expelled 35 diplomats. That General Flynn spoke with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. in the days after that was not in any doubt. What was called into question was what was discussed. He initially denied talking sanctions, a story the Vice President was happy to repeat.
They did not discuss anything having to do with the United States' decision to expel diplomats or impose a censure against Russia.
But U.S. officials with access to intercepted communications confirmed Flynn had discussed sanctions, and that meant he possibly broke the law. Confronted with the new evidence, Flynn didn't deny it. For days, senior White House officials would not say if Flynn was safe.
It's not for me to answer hypotheticals. It wouldn't be responsible. It's a sensitive matter. General Flynn has served his country admirably.
And so now he leaves, the first high-profile casualty from the Trump White House.
I think it's very likely that if Flynn was more upfront about this conversation initially, it would have blown over. It would have been kind of caught amidst all the other countless scandals that have happened in the first 3 weeks of the Trump administration.
Now there is a key question. Was Flynn acting on his own, or did he clear the discussions with his boss? If Flynn was acting on Trump's orders, this relatively small scandal will get significantly larger.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump's U.S. administration has started making good on its promise to deport millions of undocumented migrants who are mainly from Mexico and Central America. After Mexico, the largest number of undocumented immigrants comes from El Salvador. Last year alone, more than 53,000 Salvadorans were deported while trying to make it to the U.S., and yet they keep trying. Lucia Newman has more.
At San Salvador's airport, families wait to welcome home loved ones returning from the United States, though not precisely from a holiday.
I'm waiting for my grandson. He wasn't lucky.
That's the euphemism for having been caught by U.S. border guards trying to enter the United States. All these passengers are arriving empty-handed after having just been deported, many still deep in debt with the smuggler who left them at the border. Poverty and the dream of sending money back home drove Maria to leave her two small children behind. Her brother Cruz was deported in 2012 after living in the U.S. as an undocumented migrant for 13 years. Long enough to save for a house and a small plot of land back home.
I went there to work so that I could have something when I was old. Here you work, and you are always poor.
To prove it, he shows us the fruit of working the fields 12 hours a day to produce these 20 sacks of corn, which will fetch $500. Not enough for a family to survive. There is a popular song in this region that says that Salvadorans are 3 times wetbacks. First when they cross over here into Guatemala, then when they cross the river separating Guatemala from Mexico, and finally, if they make it, when they swim across the Grande River, separating Mexico from the United States. It's a long and perilous journey driven not just by poverty, but increasingly by fear. El Salvador has been overrun by criminal gangs and has the world's highest murder rate, which is why thousands attempt to reach the United States to find safety. 22-year-old Fernando, whom we met at the airport, used to drive a soft drink delivery truck.
A gang tried to recruit me by force, and when I refused to join, they threatened to kill me. I had to leave quickly.
Tens of thousands more, including children, are risking their lives to be reunited with their undocumented parents in the United States. Perhaps the strongest motivation of all. Although penniless, many in this group of 300 newly arrived deportees tell us they will try again next week. An indication that increased border controls will likely encourage Salvadorans to take even greater risks to reach the United States.
And now we take a look at sports. Convicted murderer and former New England Patriots wide receiver Aaron Hernandez was back in court this morning to begin the trial in the second murder of which he is accused.
On Tuesday, a week after his former teammates paraded through the city to celebrate their 5th Super Bowl win, former National Football League star and convicted killer Aaron Hernandez is due back in a Boston courtroom for his second murder trial. This time, Hernandez is appearing on charges that he shot 2 men to death outside a nightclub after a dispute over a spilled drink. After a previous jury convicted Hernandez of fatally shooting Odin Lloyd in June 2013, the 27-year-old is already serving a life sentence.
And that item brings us to the end of the KyssFM SKN News Now Morning Edition, brought to you with the kind compliments of Glenbarrow's Pest Control and Guest House. Join us again at 5:45 for our comprehensive evening news package. I am Leslie Joseph.
Glen Barrows International Pest Control provides a comprehensive approach for a pest-free environment for both residential and commercial clients. Our services include lawn spraying and fungus control services to ensure the safety of your family and pets, commercial pest and rodent control, pre-construction soil treatment, subterranean termite control, and tent fumigation. Call Glen Barrows International Pest Control at 465-2935 or 469-5294. Glen Barrows International Pest Control, setting new standards in pest control.